and his mother was part of it, and she did some signing, and he signed on the video, and it got like 9 million views within 48 hours.
Cool.
So that was a big win for my little one-person business.
You found the Live Local Marketing Podcast, where business owners share their knowledge about what's working in the market today. Thanks for joining us for the Live Local Marketing Podcast today. We're doing our second take with Eric. Sir, how are we doing today? And everybody safe and everybody good?
Everybody's doing great. Yeah, glad to meet with you again.
Yep, we had a little bit of the California fires kind of interrupted our first take on this thing, but Eric persists. That's what I like most about him. His persistency. I like it.
I don't give up. That's right.
That's right.
Being an entrepreneur is to pick yourself back up when things aren't right the way that you like them to be.
Yes, that's exactly true. All right, we'll do a little blurb so everybody has an idea of who you are, and then we'll hop right into the questions and start picking your brain because you have a really unique topic. He is the founder of Athletes Endorsed. It's a Southern California marketing agency helping local business do something many have never considered, partnering with college and high school athletes to create real, hyper-local word of mouth. This is a fascinating topic, and it's growing more and more, so I'm excited to get into this one. Are you ready for the question, sir?
I'm ready. Let's do our speed round.
Let's do it. Let's talk about your first win as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so my first win would be my first project, which was actually an NBA draft pick. I was starting out my business trying to figure out what my ICP is, my ideal customer profile, and trying to decide whether it's local markets, whether it's mid-sized companies. And fortunately, I had a connection with a major sports agent who had a number of potential lottery picks and first-round draft picks. And we were able to figure out that one of them had a compelling story that both of his grandparents are deaf, and he's very passionate about American Sign Language and the deaf community. His name is Carter Bryant. He was coming out of Arizona after 1 year there, big star. He was projected to be somewhere in the first round. And we talked to a number of companies that help people learn American Sign Language, like the language apps that help you learn a different language, obviously so important. And, I envy those who can speak, communicate with American Sign Language, because I would certainly love to do that. His mother is a translator for American Sign Language. So anyway, we had a compelling story. And at the 11th hour, like literally a week before the draft, we were able to connect with Gallaudet University, which is, as I understand, the only university in the world for deaf people. The more I learned about it, the more excited I was. They had a great documentary on Apple TV that was all about their first deaf president. They didn't have one until, I believe it was like the early 80s or late 70s. And that story is really great. And that's worth watching if you get a chance. So anyway, we connected him. We filmed a video here in Los Angeles because that's where he's spending his time before the draft. And his mother was part of it, and she did some signing, and he signed on the video, and it got like 9 million views within 48 hours. Cool. So that was a big win for my little one-person business.
That is a really awesome story. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that just inspired you, I'm sure, and fueled the fire. Okay, I can see where this is going. So, all right. So now that you got your momentum going, now that you have this fire in your belly, what are some of your best habits as an entrepreneur?
It is so challenging to be a solopreneur, but to me, it's just, I like to get up early, go to bed late. Right. I like to work long hours, try different things, test them. I like to do 1 month subscriptions with any SaaS platform I get. Trying some things. If it works, great. Book the year, save the money, or otherwise abandon it and try something else. I do a lot of research into different, options for certainly running my business. It's really keeping at it and not giving up and being open to different revenue streams, talking to a lot of people. You can't do enough, unfortunately, cold calling, cold emailing, which I don't do enough of, and I need to get back on. So really, I think I'd say persistence, hard work, just kind of a positive mindset, really. And, that's kind of where I would see it.
So, all right. So I like the SaaS stuff. So I get wrapped up in that kind of thing too, where you're hopping in these different platforms and doing this and that other thing. How do you keep track of which ones you're in? And how do you know when to cut ties, this isn't working, and when to keep these things?
So I need a better system, but I usually put them in like an Excel spreadsheet. And then I put, the amount I'm billing towards. I keep a very close eye on it. And I can usually tell because I'll invest more time into that when it's in subscription phase. And, I'm very grateful even for the 1 month or certainly the free trials. And my goal is to eventually implement it and to, ideally spend the 12 months on it. So, I mean, I really like them. I like researching them, to be honest with you. I like trying a couple of them. A lot of the Google searches go to Reddit. You want to see reviews, what other people have to say. Unfortunately, a lot of those Reddits seem to have people in them that are kind of, biased and trying to push you towards them. But you can spend all day on it, and I'm okay with that because I kind of like shopping for SaaS. Unfortunately, I should be doing more cold calling, but yeah, no, I just kind of like that world, and I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. All right, so you mentioned a couple times you're not as big into the cold marketing, which is fine. What is your favorite marketing strategy? What are you seeing that works the best right now?
A quick break before we get to that next answer, because I know that answer is going to be brilliant, which is why I chose this moment to interrupt. If you love what you're seeing and you want to run your business off of warm marketing referrals, visit our website, livelocalwarmmarketing.com. It's got valuable resources, office hours, memberships, the book, an array of resources to help you get rid of cold calls, cold leads, door knocking, and run a business you can be proud of through referrals and warm marketing. Now, back to the show.
So for me, it's mostly been cold email. So I'll do some rounds. I don't do sequenced cold drip email as much as I should. And that was performing just okay. It's kind of annoying some people. I wasn't getting responses. I think that another thing that didn't work was dropping in, because I work with a lot of local businesses. And it's just challenging when somebody's busy with their day and you stop and you try to sell something. I mean, what I sell, like you mentioned at the top, was something that is not very well known. It requires a little explanation. I can't say, hey, do you want me to build a website for you? Which would be a lot easier. For a while, I was kind of testing some direct mail, which is a little easier. I could bring in a sample and say, hey, we want to do this. But even then, you might be getting a junior hourly employee who says, no, we're not interested. You ask for the owner's not there. But, my parents did direct mail marketing, which was like Valpak. And my father had success going in and talking to business owners. I think sometimes he made like appointments so they weren't busy, but I can see the one-on-one, conversations. When I get a warm lead, I usually do want a face-to-face meeting, because they know I'm not some, shadow person in another continent, trying to operate. I'm a person that can drive to them and speak to them. So I think there's a lot of value there.
So so let's say I want to know what the process looks like. So if you get an athlete like you did before, like the NBA player, do you already have all the connections and stuff in your back pocket, like ready to align? Or do you work the other way around, where you try to find an athlete or two and then go back and find businesses you think would align with their values?
So I usually try to get the business first and then align an athlete with them. And supply and demand being what it is right now, a lot of athletes want NIL deals. They can get very small ones with like a energy drink they hold up in front of a grocery store. But I try to get them bigger ones with local businesses, and they seem interested. That was a rare case where I had the athlete first. It was a marquee athlete before the NBA draft, so I was able to use it.
So do you go to these businesses and say, hey, listen, I got a marketing package for you. Like, I'm going to teach you how to do all these different things. The athlete's got the platform where you're going to get notoriety. Is that how it looks? Because I've never heard of this before, and I kind of want to see or hear from you what it looks like.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more familiar and common, Billy, in the national perspective. You might have seen like Deion Sanders and his son back in a couple of years ago when they were both at Colorado. And then Juju Watkins, who unfortunately has been injured for USC, she was in a State Farm commercial with her uniform on, which is an extra fee to the university. And that was really compelling. It was for auto insurance. So no one really does what I'm doing. There's agencies that do like CVS and some big national clients that I would love to have, but as a solo person, probably difficult. But I developed an expertise on the corporate side to do NIL and pro athlete marketing campaigns. So I'm bringing it now to local businesses. And it's very unusual. It's saying to them, we'll make a great video that I'll do all the content for, and we'll bring in the athlete, and they already have a following. They're well respected on their campus. If they're high school, the parents like them, they know them, they're followed. I mean, this high school can be a block from the business. So there's a lot of value in trying to get that whole community to say, where should we go to dinner? Rather than, hey, this athlete has this compelling offer maybe at the nearby restaurant. Let's all go there because we like and respect them, and they're supporting our school through this athlete. So that's interesting. I mean, I've done mostly, to this point, colleges. I've done a few high schools, Colleges are great too because, they work hard, they have academics, they're on scholarship. Even if it's a women's soccer player, maybe at a school that isn't as big on attendance at a women's school, or a track team or water polo, these non-revenue sports, everybody thinks basketball, football, but
Yeah.
every athlete really would want to do this, and I'm excited to support them. I wish I could do more.
That is fascinating. Yeah, that is really cool. All right. So you mentioned a few times the video marketing and you create those types of things. What does that video marketing look like? So when you sit down with a local business, I'm going to make video marketing or video commercial for you. How does that look? How does that conversation go?
Yeah, so it differs by certainly clients. Some really are big on followers, which, I'm not as big on, with modern algorithms, because you make a great video, then it's going to be fed to more people. It doesn't really matter what their following is. And then also with an athlete, what's great is they probably have a strong following within that community. So it's not 100,000 people that live all over the US, but it's 2,000 people that live near that business, can get some really strong content that's local, that's trusted. So usually there's a conversation about, I'll do messaging, what products are we doing? I always try to recommend an offer. So one athlete, we put his name on the special and we did some kind of discount. And it's like during a certain period, you come in, you mention it, and he's there promoting it, and you get that benefit. And I do like time offers, because if you say, come in whenever you feel like it, a lot of times people say, oh, we got to remember that restaurant the next time. And it doesn't happen. So, limited time, 1 week offer, get them in. Sometimes I would mention the athlete's name, but that didn't always convert because people don't read the captions. And then the business owner will say, oh, well, nobody mentioned it. And I'll say, but let's look at your receipts. How did 1 week to next week after the video perform? So I really believe in it. It's only 5 years old. I think it needs another 5 to 10 years before it becomes hopefully bigger, certainly for somebody running a business like mine. But I think all these college towns and a lot of these high schools, there's a lot of opportunities with the mom and pop, the independent stores and restaurants to really benefit from them. The national chains, they'll do a national campaign, but it doesn't feel as local as these other companies and businesses that can really prosper from it.
I'm curious about this too. Do you write the commercials yourself?
I do. So I script it. I might have AI try to help me, but I need to do it because AI doesn't have nuances. So I do business development, athlete, relations. I do directing, filming, script. It's a one-person operation. I could easily have a script writer. I could have a photographer. I could have a social media person, and I would love that. But right now, the business isn't big enough to support all those. So, which is fine. I can do all of them myself. Certainly, I really just want the local businesses to benefit from it. I mean, I do keep an eye on the data. I ask them, how's it going? I've sometimes put my own money into buying ads with their content to try to bring more revenue into their business, kind of support them.
That's pretty cool. That's amazing. So, all right. When you sit down with the business, I'm always asking these questions of people like yourself as well. When you're sitting down with the businesses and you're talking branding, because you need to be able to match with an athlete, what kind of branding questions do you ask them to help kind of hone in what the message needs to be?
Branding in terms of their business, or
because you're trying to line that business up a lot of times with specific athletes. I would assume you want to make sure those values align at least a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really certainly have kind of a benchmark. I want an athlete to be professional and mature, and I will go over the feed. Like, follower count sure is important, and it's never going to not be important, but I want to look at their portfolio, like what are they posting. And I always tell athletes, you get NIL deals months and years ago based on your Instagram. Like, that's your ad channel. So if you post twice and it's you on a field, that's not really compelling to an advertiser. Like, I want to see you going out with, your fashion, your friends, something that you're doing in the community would be great, interacting with people, helping others, anything that kind of shows them to be a person that's interesting, compelling, worth following. So I try to look for those, and I'll talk to the business owner, like, who's your customer, who you're trying to attract, what kind of sports. And usually they say, we'll leave it up to you, go find the person. And then I'll start, that process of recruiting. And I've had people turn me down, which kind of surprises me. And it's not always about money. They just will say, that's not a fit for me. And I respect that. I mean, I want it to be authentic. I don't push people. I say, hey, let's keep in touch. I want to work with you another time. But when the fit aligns, it's pretty exciting because they're excited to be there. They're going to try food. Let's say if I do a restaurant, and I'll try to get, honest feedback. I'll even say to them, if it's scripted, do you really like this? Because if you don't like it, I'm changing the script, because I just don't want them to pretend, because they're not actors. They're pretending to be themselves, basically marketing the business. I had one athlete tell me, my script said, this is my first time here. And then like a half an hour later, he said, I used to come here in high school all the time. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, I'd worked with him before and I really liked him. I was like, you could have told me that. I would have changed it right away. So I had to edit that out. It's not my first time. And he told the business owner, and they're thrilled, of course. So we got to laugh about it, but it has to be authentic.
That is really awesome. The connections you make on the local level seem just genuine and amazing. All right. So what are some of the, you talked about it a little bit earlier with script writing and so forth, but maybe even looking into the athletes and doing background checks, but what are some of your favorite uses of AI right now for your business?
So I've suddenly become pretty big on AI, just kind of testing videos. And, some people see it as controversial. It just fills a gap right now. I'd much rather work with an athlete, but if demand's not there, you say AI video to anyone right now, they're going to listen more than athlete marketing. So I've done a lot of AI video content creation, testing different platforms. It just gets really expensive really quickly, because you buy the credits, it runs it through you. It doesn't always follow the directions. So it may be speaking garble, gibberish. It might put text on screen that's not a language that we speak here on Earth. And you say, okay, I got to generate again, and I got to go through the same credits. So I'd rather work with athletes. I'd rather, that would be a better option. I will use Claude for some writing. Unfortunately, you use Claude and ChatGPT right now. I'd rather use one. ChatGPT is great, of course, with images. But I also do a lot of marketing for like a restaurant. And if you say, make an ad, you can tell when it's a ChatGPT ad, because the writing's too small. The font is great. Like, it looks good if we didn't know what AI was, but now we become accustomed to it. And it's like, okay, you're using AI to generate your ads. I think that will turn off your viewers. So I look at data all the time. Like, I'm constantly like, what's performing, because I want to learn from it. And it'll just make everything less expensive if I learn what is working and what isn't, because I'll make better decisions the next time.
What are some of the trends you're seeing in regards to making effective athlete local business ads?
So obviously the hook is really huge. So I try to capture that. I will do a little bit of a formula where I'll have them introduce themselves and put a lower third, with their name and their sport, because even if they're posting it, I want to make sure anyone sees who they are. I do a lot of, talking about the product, obviously, pricing. We'll walk up around the restaurant or the location, get people familiar with it. To me, it's, authenticity, like I mentioned, is really key, that they're sounding like they really do believe in what they're promoting. It's not just for their agreement. But yeah, and then they post it. We'll do a collaboration, so it'll appear on both channels on Instagram, which is great. They have to put it on TikTok as well. We'll do some stories to promote it. So ultimately, it's a nice kind of package. And I call it advertising, because even if you don't boost it or put money through Meta, you're paying the athlete to promote on their organic. So I think it's compelling, and I'm certainly seeing high school as being valuable, just like college.
Yeah. Some of these athletes, especially being in the community, makes such a huge difference. That is really amazing what you're doing. So before we get to like the bits about your business and how people can get a hold of you, we have one last question. The last question is, so talk to the athlete who doesn't have that confidence, that doesn't think they, are good enough or big enough or whatever for some of this NIL or some of this type of, or maybe they're in a sport that's smaller. How do you have a confidence talk? What things would you say to them that, yeah, you can do this? This is something we can, set you up with.
Yeah, I like to talk about my background in it. Obviously, now I have a little bit of a track record. So, that has helped, giving them examples, going to my social media to see what I've done. It didn't hurt, like I said, in my first story, to have an NBA draft pick as my first project, because after that, it's like, well, I kind of know what I'm doing. That was an amazing day for us. But yeah, I mean, I have children. I'm good at building people up. I always tell clients or potential clients that I can coach people to be better on camera, because they might do their own organic, posting, whatever, not really have a strategy. And I'll help them. I'll work on lighting. We'll do microphones, and I'll block them and, get them to figure out how to read lines and that sort of thing. I haven't run into a lot of that. And I think that's one of the things that's great about athletes is there's some inherent confidence in them. They put themselves out there. They work very hard. They're not kind of introverted for the most part. The challenge is those that kind of read a script very plainly and I go, hey, let's emphasize this word and say it this way. And they pick up on that. So, and there's also been challenges, interesting, where they don't want to post because they say, I don't really like how I look in this. I say, look, it looks great. I cleaned it up, in CapCut. I'll do some work in Lightroom. It looks great. Trust me, you look good, and I get it. I have a teenager, they don't always feel comfortable in themselves, but they have an agreement. I don't have a lot of footage to go from. They were fine on set or at the location because I say, you know what? We're not live. I have enough time. We can do plenty of takes. If you make a mistake, don't worry about it. But then when we have to post, Like I got to go up,
That's pretty cool. That is awesome. All right. So for more, if I could just ask 1,000 more questions, because you don't come across people that are trying to do this on a local level very often. So it's fascinating what you're doing. But we're out of time. So we're going to, where can people find more information about you or even set up a meeting if they have maybe an athlete in the family or they're athlete themselves and just want to kind of pick your brain about some other options?
Yeah, you can go to my website, athletesendorsed.com, or find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Athletes Endorsed. And I have my books, Sales Spike, which is on Amazon. You can learn to do it yourself, essentially, because I can only really work on Southern California, but I'm happy to help, certainly advise and consult anyone. I think this has a lot of potential in the future. It's untapped. I don't have a lot of competition other than social media marketing agencies and influencers, which are different. So I recommend doing this, in a college town or anywhere with a lot of high school athletes.
That is amazing. That's awesome. Be sure you check that out, especially if you have or are an athlete or you have a young person, son or daughter, who is also an athlete, because there's way more options out there now than any time when we were playing sports growing up. So there's a lot more. It's a different world, and you sometimes just need some guidance and some help. And Eric's going to be that person to help you out. So
yeah,
we appreciate your knowledge.
Or if you have a local business and you say, hey, I want more customers, I can help with that.
Yeah, that's true. The angles are cool. That is awesome. All right, sir. We appreciate your time and your help and for coming back on and your persistence. All that has been appreciated today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Billy. It was a pleasure.
And if authentic, practical marketing resonates with you, be sure to visit livelocalwarmmarketing.com and learn to grow your business on warm marketing referrals.